The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
A very good morning and a warm welcome to all the attendees. My name is Ashish and I welcome you all on the second day of the 3-day webinar series. You can see the agenda that we have for today on the screen. We would like to start the session at exact 10:03. We would like some more attendees to join the session now. So let's wait for them and we will kick off the session at exact 10:03. Meanwhile, you can go to the agenda that's been displayed on the screen. Thank you. A very good morning once again and welcome to all the attendees. My name is Ashish and I'll be your trainer for today. I welcome you all on the second day of the 3-day webinar series. You can see the agenda that we have for today. However, before we move on to the agenda, let me reiterate the ground rules that we set yesterday. To ensure that the session is completed on time and without any interruption, all the attendees would be in a listen-only mode during the session. We would request you to park your question for the question and answer session that will be happening in the end of the session, the webinar. However, if you still wish to ask the question, please use the chat window for the same. We would like to answer all the questions in the end. If we miss out on any questions, please do look out for an email that will be sent to you by the end of the day today. That email would have a recording link and it would also have the question and answers that were being asked during the session. Now, before we move on to the agenda, we would just like to understand whether you are able to hear me clearly or not. I would request all the attendees to please participate in the survey that's been displayed on the screen right now. Please let me know if you're able to hear me clearly. I would request all the attendees please participate in this survey that's been displayed on the screen. This will help me in understanding that you're able to hear me clearly and I'm loud and clear. We'll run this survey for another 10 seconds. For those who have not participated, please participate in the survey. And for those who were not able to hear me clearly, please, you can log out and log back in from a different system and that might do the change. We're closing this survey now. Thank you. Thank you for your participation. Now let's move on to the agenda that we have for today. What we're going to do today is about TDS part. We will cover the supplier side, the customer side settings of TDS, how we can deduct TDS before making a payment and how we can get the amount after deducting the TDS from a customer. We will use the TDS on bill, invoices, and also there's the option that we left yesterday, which was about advance payment. We'll cover that as well. We'll take you to some of the reports which are related to TDS, and then we will look about online banking. That is the banking transaction, how you can connect your bank with QuickBooks, and how you will be able to upload your bank statement in QuickBooks. We'll cover that today. There are some add-ons that we will cover today, which includes budgets, recurring transactions, and attachments. We'll also cover multi-currency, which is one of the most important topics that we have for today on the agenda. We'll cover multi-currency, how you can create invoices and purchase invoices for foreign customers and foreign suppliers. We'll cover that today. So without wasting any time, let's move on to the QuickBooks and let's start with the TDS settings. What we did yesterday was we initially did some company settings. We went to the company setting, we did initial setup. Then we went to import data, where we imported our customers, suppliers, chart of accounts, and we imported products and services. Then we used all those things, all those customers, suppliers, products and services in these transactions. That includes invoice, estimate, sale receipts, expenses, employees activities, the deposits, the journal entries. We did all that, and then we saw the impact of it on the profit and loss report. Now there was one option that we left yesterday, which was about advance payment, that we are going to cover today. So let's talk about TDS. Now, how can we make a customer enable for TDS, which means if I'm dealing with a customer and I've entered an invoice of 100 rupees, when I receive the payment, customer deducts the TDS and then the remaining amount gets credited into my account, or I receive the remaining amount from the customer. Let's say if he pays me only 90 rupees out of 100, but that 10 rupees goes to the government. So he pays that on his own to the government and he deducts this amount as a TDS. How can I track this in QuickBooks? All what I have to do is I have to click on customers on the left hand panel. Now what we will do is we'll select this option here. We'll select customers here. We already have 3 customers. If you want to make one of these customer enabled with TDS, you just have to click on the name of the customer, and then you will have an option which says edit. As you click on edit, you will see an option of tax info. There is a address, notes, and then tax info. If you click on tax info tab, you'll see the checkbox which says apply TDS for this customer. This is how you can make an existing customer TDS enabled. What I will do is I will try to add a new customer, and let's make this customer TDS enabled customer. So I'll select TDS customer as the name. I'll go to the tax info and I check the box which says apply TDS for this customer. Now if we go back to customers, we have 4 customers: test customer 1, test customer 2, test customer 3, and then the last one is TDS customer. This TDS customer is now TDS enabled, but we cannot see any difference right now until and unless we use this name on transactions. So let's try to enter an invoice and let's see what is the impact that we can see. So what we will do is let's try to use a different name altogether. First of all, we use QBO test customer 1, not the TDS customer, but I'm using test customer 1 who is not TDS enabled. And everything looks fine here on the invoice, on the bottom right hand side, everything looks fine. But as I change this to TDS customer, you will see the impact here on the bottom right hand side. Now it asks for a TDS type and the TDS amount, which means if I enter an invoice, let's say if I'm entering for any of the services that I'm charging 1000 rupees, and if customer deducts some amount, we can select that under which section or under which TDS type has it deducted the amount, and we can mention the amount here as well. Let's say if I mention 50 rupees here, now what will happen is this 1000 rupees will go down to 950. The balance due is now 950. That's because customer has deducted 50 rupees as a TDS. If you now click on save and close and you go to receive payment, that is we're trying to receive the payment against the same invoice which was entered for TDS customer, you will not see 1000 here. You will see 950 here, because when we entered the invoice it was 1000, but when customer paid the amount and it deducted TDS, the invoice amount is 950. But if you click on the invoice If you open the invoice, you will be able to see that the actual amount was 1000, then customer deducted TDS of 50 rupees, and we are left over with 950 only. This is the amount that we are supposed to receive from the customer. So this is how you will be able to run the TDS transactions. And also we have a separate account for the same. If you go to transactions and you go to chart of accounts, let's look for TDS receivable. You will see that 50 rupees is going in the TDS receivable account. It shows the asset account there, that is 50 rupees that's been added here. Similarly, let's do the same transaction for a supplier. So what we will do is we will make a supplier TDS enabled. So what we will do is let's try to create a supplier here. Again, the process remains the same. If you want to change an existing supplier and make it a TDS enabled supplier, you have to click on the name of the supplier, edit this supplier, and you will find a checkbox which says apply TDS for this supplier. But what I'll do is I will create a new supplier and we'll try to work on that. Let's create a new supplier here. We'll give it a name as TDS supplier. We'll check the box here. Now because here we are TDS registered, we are deducting TDS for this supplier, we will just mention the TDS section, that is it could be residential and HUF or any other amount. We can select interest by others, and you have to have a PAN number there. Once it's been done, you can just click on save and the TDS supplier is created here. This TDS supplier has been added. Let's see what is the impact that we can see on a purchase transaction when we use TDS supplier. So what we can do is we click on we click on the plus sign and we click on bill. Let's try to enter a purchase invoice. We select the name of, before selecting TDS supplier, let's select any other supplier and let's see if there's any impact here in the bottom right hand side. No, everything looks normal. But if I change this to TDS supplier, you will see the impact immediately. You'll see the TDS section that has been selected and it asks for a calculate TDS option. So what we will do is, let's say if I'll select an expense account here, maybe computer software, and I mention the amount as 10,000. As I mentioned the amount at 10,000 and I click on this option calculate TDS, what QuickBooks will do is, based on the section that we have selected, 194A, the amount of TDS that needs to be deducted, QuickBooks will calculate it and it will just give us the amount here. So we'll just click on yes to this message, and out of 10,000, 10%, the rate of 10% was been added, and based on 10% of 10,000 it comes to this amount. The 1,000 rupees has been deducted as a TDS. Now the amount that we're supposed to pay to this vendor as a bill is 9,000 rupees. And we can just click on save and close. Now if you see this TDS supplier balance outstanding is 9,000 only, not 10,000, because 1,000 has been deducted by us as a supplier, by us as a payer, and we will pay that 1,000 rupees straight to the government. Now here is the catch. Because we have deducted 1,000 rupees from the vendor bill, it becomes a liability for us. Now we have to pay that amount to the government. How do we do that? How do we track that there is 1,000 rupees that we are supposed to pay? So if you go to chart of accounts once again, and we can select TDS payable, you see this, it's a liability account and it has a balance of 1,000 rupees, which means my liability has gone up with 1,000 rupees. This is the amount that I'm supposed to pay to the government. Now, how would I go ahead and pay this amount? Before doing that, let me show you a report which can work as a TDS report. What we need to do is we have to go to reports here and we select TDS payable. If you select TDS payable, it will bring up this report in front of you, and it by default shows last month because as per it we are trying to do this for the last month, but we'll do it for this month itself. So let me just select the option that is this month, and you will see this bill that we just entered on 4th of January. It gives you all the details here that it's a bill. TDS supplier is the name of the supplier. This is the PAN number. This is the entity. This is the section. The total bill amount was 10,000 rupees and the TDS amount is 1,000 rupees. This report can work as a TDS report for us. Now what we need to do is we have to pay this amount to the government. How would we pay this amount to the government? What we can do is we just have to click on plus sign here, and under plus sign you will see an option of expense. Now you can write it through a check as well. You can write it through an expense as well. I'll just use the check option here. So let's say if there's a check that I've written to pay this amount and the check number was 123458, whatever number that comes up, I'll select account as TDS payable amount. So this is the account that I'm using, TDS payable, and I can mention the amount as 1,000 rupees. This is the amount that I'm paying. I'm paying because of my TDS amount and I'm paying it from my ICICI bank. You just click on save and close, and if you now go back to chart of accounts, you will see the TDS payable balance has gone down to 0, which was 1,000. Why it has gone down to 0? Because we have just paid our liabilities. This is how we will be able to get the balances sorted. That's about the TDS transactions. This is how we will be able to track the TDS transactions in QuickBooks. If you still go to the payables window, if you go to payables window, you will see the TDS supplier balance is still 9,000 because we have only paid the TDS liability and not the bill. The bill of 9,000 is still outstanding. And to pay this bill, all what you have to do is you can just go ahead and go to payables window, check the box here, and you will be able to click on save and close. Now if you go to suppliers, you will see for TDS supplier there is no balance, which means we have already paid our TDS liabilities and we have paid the bill as well. This is how you will be able to run TDS transactions in QuickBooks. Now the next part that we have, there was one option that we left yesterday which was about advance payment. If you see under suppliers heading, there is an option of advance payment. This advance payment is an option which can be done only if as a supplier I am paying an advance. If I as a purchaser I am paying an advance to one of my vendors and that vendor is TDS enabled, which means I can deduct TDS while giving the advance to the vendor. So what I'll do is I'll just select advance payment here. As you select advance payment, it will open up this window. You can select the TDS supplier again because it will only be applicable to TDS supplier. You have to select the bank account from where you're making the payment. Let's say I use savings bank account and I mention the amount here, the one that I'm paying to the vendor. Let's say if I mention 10,000 here, and out of 10,000 if you calculate TDS it comes to 1,000 rupees. I've selected 1,000, so overall amount that I'm paying is 9,000, which include 1,000 of TDS. If you now click on save and close, the advance has been paid. Now if you go to suppliers, the TDS supplier should have a balance of negative 9,000 or 10,000, but it doesn't show that. The reason is this advance payment that we have made, it doesn't hit the accounts payable as of now. So how can we adjust this advance payment against an open bill? Let me show you how we can do that. We click on the plus sign and we enter a bill. Now in future, whenever you get the bill from your vendor, we select the name of the same supplier, TDS supplier, and we select the purchases that we have done or whatever the balances that we have. Let's say if the amount is 15,000 here, the overall bill. As I click on calculate TDS, QuickBooks will bring a pop-up in front of you which says advance payment number 1 of 1,000 TDS and 10,000 overall is been recorded. Would you like to add this? You just have to check the box here and you click on apply. If you now see that advance payment has been used of 10,000 rupees and on remaining 5,000 based on 10%, 500 rupees has been calculated at TDS. The balance due is now 4,500 only. All what you have to do is just click on save and close. This is how you can use the advance payment as an option that is available for TDS registered suppliers only. So if you have a supplier who is TDS registered, you can use this option for them. Otherwise, you will not be able to. Now, here comes a question. What if you have a supplier who is not TDS registered, but he still pays you the advance for any of the project? You have not billed him as of now, or rather you have not received the bill, but you are paying him an advance for a project that you want him to do. So how can we track that advance payment that I've given to my vendor? You don't have to use this advance payment if he's not TDS registered. But what we can do is we can write a check entry. We can write a check entry here. Let's say I use QBO India as a supplier, and I mention in this account column I have to use accounts payable. If you remember, we talked about this yesterday, that if you're trying to hit a supplier balance, you have to use accounts payable creditors. And if I mention 10,000 here, I'll just click on save and close. This will go as an advance payment to the vendor. If you see, QBO India supplier has a negative balance here of minus 10,000 rupees. If I open this, you can see on the top right hand side, this vendor has a negative balance of minus 10,000 rupees. That's because we have overpaid this vendor of 10,000 rupees. Now, whenever he in future he deals with us or he sends us an invoice, he can offset it with this amount that we've paid as an advance. This is how we will be able to track the advance payment for the vendors. Now, that's about the TDS part that we have in QuickBooks. Let's move on to the next topic that we have, which is about online banking. One of the most important and commonly used topic for QuickBooks is online banking. What exactly does this do? Online banking actually allows you to use your bank account to get connected with QuickBooks, and whatever transactions that you do on a daily basis, they get downloaded in QuickBooks automatically on its own. How does they get downloaded? We just have to click on, there's an option which says connect account. We can use this option. This is a shortcut. Or what we can do is, the proper method is you go to transactions and you click on banking. As you click on banking, it gives you enter your bank name or URL. Let's say if I'm dealing with SDFC, I mention SDFC here. As I select SDFC, it brings out some options for me. These are the 5 to 6 kinds of bank account that prevails in India related to SDFC. One is the normal SDFC bank, then we have a SDFC bank corporate, then we have a SDFC bank credit card, we have a SDFC bank corporate e-net banking, and e-net easy viewer payments. Let's say if I'm dealing with SDFC bank corporate, I'll select this and QuickBooks will ask for the details here. That is your net banking username and password. You can get it from your SDFC bank itself. All what you have to do is just enter your login details, that is your customer ID and your IPIN password. And when you click on sign in, your account, your bank account will get connected with QuickBooks. What exactly will this do? When your bank gets connected with QuickBooks, it will allow you to download past 90 days transactions for the very first time. For the first time when you connect, you can download up to 90 days of transactions, and you can add them instantly in QuickBooks as well. So you just have to select the transaction and add them in QuickBooks. That's one option. Moreover, going forward, all the transactions that you do on a day, the very next day in the morning when you log in QuickBooks, you will see those transactions are already there in QuickBooks under for review screen. These transactions will not affect your bank account until and unless you add them on your own. But they are very much there, and you can easily add these transactions, allocate the accounts, and they can be added. You do not have to manually click on plus sign and then do a deposit or then do a receive payment. You can easily allocate the payments against open invoices. You can easily allocate the bill payments again open bills. I'll guide you how we can do that as well. Now, does that mean we only have one bank account that is SDFC? No. If you're dealing with ICICI, you can select ICICI here. If you're dealing with Axis Bank, you can select Axis Bank here. You get all the options available. And similarly, if you're using any other bank, you can use that bank as well. So all what it gives you is the best part about it, that you can connect the bank accounts, and all what you have to do is you don't have to have a separate login. It's just with your normal internet banking you can do this, and it's very much secure. If you see this where it says privacy, then it says Verizon certified. This is a company who actually takes care of our online banking accounts across the globe, and that's the same company who safeguards our accounts in QuickBooks. So that's pretty much safe. Now, there was a concern that I just informed, that when you connect your bank account, you get 90 days of transactions. What if we want past 6 months transactions or past 9 months transactions into our QuickBooks account? How can we do that? Is it possible? Is it not possible? Well, it's not possible doing this method by connecting the bank account, but you still can connect your bank account, and then you can upload the bank statement into QuickBooks. So for last 30 days, last 90 days, you can get the transactions, and for the remaining 6 months, you can upload the statement manually in QuickBooks. If you see underneath these options, you have an option here which says upload transactions manually. All what you have to do is you have to just ask the bank to download the statement, to give you the statement in a CSV format. If your bank doesn't provide that, then we have to do a little bit of a work, but we will be able to get the statements into QuickBooks without any issues. Let me show you how we can do this. If I click on this option, upload transactions manually, it gives us this option: open a new tab and sign into your bank account, download the bank statement, the transactions in CSV, QFX, QBO or COFX format. In India, only CSV works. The other three which are highlighted doesn't work at all. They are actually for the global versions of QuickBooks, but not for the India version of QuickBooks. Then the last is close the tab and return to QuickBooks. Now, what we need to do is, once you download the statement, so let's say for example, if we have downloaded the bank statement in a PDF format, what we need to do, the very first thing that we have to do is we have to use a search engine to search for a software which can convert that PDF file into Excel file, into a Microsoft Excel file. Once the file is converted into Excel, your bank statement, the way it looks is, on the top it will have your bank name, it will have your bank statement start date, end date, your bank account details, your name, your all address details and the company address details. And then in the middle of the screen, it will have a section for your transactions. You've done 10 transactions, 20 transactions in a month or in that period. It will have all the details of those transactions. Then in the extreme bottom, it will have again a disclaimer about the bank, some of the new year offers or any promotions that are going on in the bank. It will have that. The only important part for us is the middle section, in which it has the transaction details. That is all what we need. So once you convert into an Excel, you have to remove everything that is there on the top. That includes your account details, your name, your everything, and anything that is in between, that is in the bottom, like the disclaimer or the promotions, you have to remove that as well. All what we need is just 4 columns. That is transaction date, transaction particulars, amount, the overall amount, or whether the amount is a debit or a credit. That means the amount is a spent or a received. That is all what we need, and then you will be able to import this into QuickBooks. Let me just show you. I have created a bank statement. We converted it from PDF and I have created a statement. Let me just show you how exactly it looks like. If I just open this statement, these are the 4 fields that we need: date, description, amount, and whether it's debit or a credit. The first section you can ignore this. We don't need the serial number. I've just only done it so that we can keep a count at how many transactions we have. Now, the very first section is the transaction date, that is on 17th of October. The format has to be dd/mm/YYYY. In the description, we should not use any special characters. In the amount, generally the amount comes up at 2000, it's 2000.00. We should not use any separators at all. The amount should be like this only, the way it is showing on the screen. And then the last is whether this amount, this 2000, is credit or a debit. You can accordingly see these options here. You just have to mention CR or DR here. Now once it's been done, we can import this bank statement into QuickBooks. So I'll just click on open here and I click on next. As I click on next, QuickBooks will ask you that you're trying to upload the bank statement. It should go under which account? I can select my SDFC bank account here, Money Market SDFC bank account, which is already there in chart of accounts. And then I can click on next. Now here comes the tricky part. If you see this section here in the extreme bottom, it says CSV file has amounts in. First one is one column. It has the amount in one column, which doesn't meet our scenario because ours has an amount with one column, but then we have a debit or credit column as well. Then it says we have two columns for amount. We do have two columns for amount. One is separate positive and negative numbers. This again doesn't meet our scenario because ours has one column for amount, another for debit and credit. So let's move on to the third section. Third is positive numbers only with credit and debit column. This is the one that suits our requirement. This is the one that meets the requirement. So we select this option and now we can map the fields. Like the column number 2 is for date, we can still manually select this. The format is dd/mm/YYYY. Column number 3 is for description. Column number 5 is for debit and credit, and column number 4 is for amount. As we click on this, we can click on next and you will see all those transactions that we just added, the 13 transactions, are showing like this only. We can just click on next and I'll just click on yes here. It says 13 transactions were imported successfully. If I'll just click on let us go here, you can see this bank account is connected. Money Market SDFC is now connected and it shows us the balance here. There are 13 transactions which have been added and all these transactions are listed here. This is how every single morning when you log in into QuickBooks and you go to banking screen, you will be able to see all the transactions under for review window. These transactions have not been added in QuickBooks right now. There are three tabs that you can see: for review, in QuickBooks, and excluded. If we click on for review, you can see all the transactions here, but they have not yet added in QuickBooks. How to add them in QuickBooks? For example, on 23rd of October 2016, there was a cash withdrawal done from the bank. And by default, all this category or match are going under uncategorized expense or uncategorized income account. If it's a spend, if it's coming under spend column, then the amount will be an expense, uncategorized expense. If it's under received, it will go as uncategorized income. All what we have to do is to ensure that this gets displayed correctly in our profit and loss account, we can categorize these expenses. For example, there's a 200 rupees that I've withdrawn from my bank account. If you select this transaction, you can select it's a transfer. So let's say if we select transfer here, it was transferred from my money market SDFC account, and we can just click on transfer here, or you can select here it was transferred to my ICICI account. I'll just click on transfer and the transfer has been added. That 200 rupees transaction has gone. If you now go to in QuickBooks, you can see added a transfer entry on 23rd of October. If you actually go to chart of accounts, then you will see under ICICI bank account, if you run the report, you will see a 200 rupees transfer entry has been entered. Let's see. There was a transfer entry on 23rd of October that's been added. If you open this transfer entry, you can see that this was done from money market SDFC to ICICI account of 200 rupees. This and it shows you online banking matches. That means we have done this from online banking. So we have not gone to the plus sign and we've used the transfer option. No, we have just gone to the transactions and banking, and from there we have added these transactions. This is how we will be able to add the transactions. Now, the next transaction that we can see, let's say there is an amount that we can see as received, and it shows 2000 rupees have been received here. Now, let's say this 2000 rupees we have received is against an invoice. This was on 23rd of October. So if you just select this option and you want to allocate this 2000 rupees to an invoice, you just have to click on the three options. One is add, other is find match, and third is transfer. You have to click on find match. As you click on find match, it will show you all the transactions that are there in QuickBooks. If there's any open invoice, we can see 5000 rupees invoice is there, which was entered on 31st of December. So we can consider that customer has paid us advance of 2000 rupees, which we didn't track. We select this amount, and out of 5000, 2000 has been allocated to this invoice. The invoice number is 1006. I'll just click on save. Now this number has gone down to 11. If you go to in QuickBooks, you can see a payment has been added of, this says a payment has been added on 23rd of October of 2000 rupees. Just to check this payment, if you go to customers here, and we will select that particular transaction. So let's say if this is the same customer, not really, we can just click on the, we'll look for an invoice here, that is invoice 1006, and we just click on search here. We can find this invoice here. This is for QBO test customer 1. The overall amount was 5000 rupees. We have received 2000 and the balance due is 3000, and if you see on the top, it shows you one linked transaction. That means this payment has been entered through a online banking. If you open this payment here, you will be able to see online banking matches on the top. So 2000 rupees have been used to partially pay the invoice. This is how you will be able to use online banking to pay your invoices or to pay the bills. Now let's look for the same transaction here. What we will do is we will now try to pay a bill using this amount of 16th of October 2016. Let's say if I select this, I again have to click on find match. I click on find match, it opens up this window in front of me. I can run this report as of 31st of December. We do not have any open transaction for a vendor, hence it's not showing us any transaction here. But what we can do is, let's try to enter a bill just to see if we can allocate that bill against this payment. So we select the bill, we go to plus sign and we enter a bill. Let's say we enter it for supplier 1, and we select the travel expenses worth, let's say 4000 rupees, and this was done. The bill date was, let's say 23rd of October. I'll just click on save and close. That's been done. Now let's go to transactions and we go to banking. We will again highlight this transaction of 2000 rupees, and I again click on find match. As I click on find match, I can see this bill that I just entered, 4000 rupees is here. We select this amount and it will automatically allocate only 2000 rupees against the bill. You can click on save now, and let's go to suppliers. Let's look for the supplier 1 here. There was a bill for 4000 rupees and there's a bill payment check for 2000 rupees. Outstanding amount is 2000 only. If you open the bill payment check, you will see it has online banking matches, and rupees 2000 has been allocated to this bill of 4000 rupees. This is how we will be able to use online banking to allocate payment or receive payments against open transactions. Now there's one more thing. We talked about the option of matching and excluding transactions. What exactly does that mean? Now, for example, on 4th of October, there is 500 rupees that's been deducted from the bank account, from the SDFC bank account. 4th of October, 500 rupees have been deducted. It right now, if you see this 4th of October transaction, it shows the option to add. What if I have already added this transaction in QuickBooks? Let's say if I'll just do a expense entry on 4th of October 2016 from my money market SDFC bank account. The amount is 400 rupees and I select, let's say it was a journal travel expense for anything, and maybe I can mention this as petrol charges. I'll just do a save and close to this entry. If you now go to transactions and you go to banking, because QuickBooks does a survey, you will be able to see that, let's say if this is the entry, here we go, it's 4th of October 2016. It was for supplier 1. So we have a supplier to whom we have entered this, and the entry that I've just entered, it doesn't have a supplier. So I'll just have to use the supplier name as well, that is supplier 1. If I'll just use this, and I can just click on save and close. Oh, sorry, my bad. The amount is actually 500 rupees and not 400 rupees. That is the reason it was actually showing no match there. If I enter the amount of 500 rupees for the same date and I do a save and close, you will now see it doesn't have an add option, it has a match option. That means because QuickBooks does an overall scan of the file, it tells you that on the same date, on the 4th of October, there is another expense entry that's been entered for the same amount. Is this the same? Because if you add this again, that means you're trying to deduct your bank account for the same amount twice. But if you match it, it will just reconcile that. It will not add it again, it will only reconcile it. So we can just click on match and the transaction has been matched here. If you see, this 500 rupees transaction has been matched to the expense of 4th of October 2016. This is how you can use online banking to do the day-to-day transactions, to receive the payment, to add these entries, and also to exclude the entries. What exactly do we mean by excluding of the entries? Now let's say this 2000 rupees that I've received, it shows us this 2000 rupees. This is a personal amount that I've received and I do not want to show this in my business. I can just check the box here, and also I can look for another expense of 1000 rupees that I did, but this is a personal expense. I do not want to show this in my company's account. So I can check these two accounts, these two transactions, and then I go to batch actions, and there is an option which says exclude selected. Right now the number shows 9. If I click on exclude selected, it will go down to 7. In QuickBooks, there are no transactions that have been added, but in excluded, we can see these two transactions have been added, or rather they have been excluded. The reason why we do exclude is if you have already entered a transaction in QuickBooks and you do not want to show that transaction, you should use this exclude option. So this is how you can use online banking to connect your bank account, to add transactions, sales and expense transactions. Now another option that we have on the left hand side is, this is about the online banking, but we have under banking you have option of sales and expenses. What exactly this means? If you click on sales, it actually includes all the transactions which are related to customer balance, which are related to customer transactions. All the sales transactions would get included in this. That includes your invoices, your sale receipts, your payments, your credit notes, time charges. You can use the filter and look for the transaction that you want. You can accordingly search this transaction. This is only a shortcut so that you can reach your transaction easily. Similarly, if you go to expenses, it deals with all the expense transactions. And when we say expense transactions, we doesn't mean that it's only expense entries, but it's about all the expenses which are related to suppliers. This is how you will be able to search these transactions. Perfect. Now let's move on to the next topic that we have today in the agenda, which is about budgets and recurring transactions. What exactly do we mean by budgets? Budgets basically means a projection that we do. So we can project that in next quarter, how much would be our income, how much would be our expenses. We can accordingly project that. And then as the time goes on, as the transactions happen, we can compare that how close we are to the actual budget. We can compare the budget versus actual report. How do we create a budget? We have to click on the gear icon on the top, and under tools you have an option which says budgeting. If you click on budgeting, this will open up this window in front of you which says creating a budget, and it asks for create the budget from scratch or from historical amounts. Choose whether to subdivide. You can just click on next to this option, and it gives you, do you want to start with any amount or actual amount from the last financial year? Because it's a new file, it will not have any data there, so we can select no amounts, create budget from scratch. I'll click on next. Now it asks for do not subdivide or customers. If you want the budget to be created based on customers, you can do that. Otherwise you can use do not subdivide. And now it asks for a name, so we can just give it a name as test here, and I'll just click on finish. As I click on finish, I am back on this page, and if I click on finish, I'm back on the home page. Where exactly can I define the budget thing? You have to go to this budget once again, and it will open up that entire sheet in front of you where you can mention all the options. So let's say when it comes to product of sales revenue, if I mention this, I select the line here, and to enter the amount you have to scroll it down. Here you can mention, let's say it should be 1,000 every month. I mention 1,000, I click on copy across. I just click on save and next, so the 1,000 has been done. Sales of product income, let's say if I mention 500 here, and I click on copy across, and I click on save and next. That's been added. Similarly for services, we mention 1,000 again, and we click on copy across. We click on save and next. This is how you can add the income accounts. And then for the expenses, you can mention 100 here, and you can copy across. You'll be able to get it. Now you can mention this, copy across, and you can click on save and next. Once it's been done, once you were able to do everything, you can just click on finish, and your budget is created. Now as the time goes on, as you have started entering transactions, how would you compare that whether what you have set up as a budget, are you meeting the requirements or you're not? You can just click on reports here. There is a report named as budget versus actuals. You can click on this. Because we have entered the data only for December month, we can straight away move to the December month itself, and you'll be able to see the impact here. The budget was 1,000 rupees. What we did was actually is 5,000 rupees. So this is for the service income, and we've got 400. So the percentage of budget is 500 that we've achieved. Sales of product income is budget was 500, actual was none. Hence there was minus 500 is the over budget. So this is how you will be able to keep a track of all the transactions that we have done. And if you scroll it down, and we've done some January transactions as well, you will see the sales of product income was 500. What we achieved was 2475. So we have achieved 495% of our budgeted total. This is how you will be able to compare, and you will be able to get the exact percentage that how much and where exactly is your company standing based on the projection that we did. That's how you can create budget. There's one more option that we have, that is about recurring transactions. Now recurring transaction means if there is one certain transaction that we enter every month to the same supplier of the same amount, or let's say if it's an EMI that I'm paying every month, on 4th of every month 4,000 rupees direct from my account. How can I track this, or how can I automate it? There is an option in QuickBooks that you can automate this transaction. You do not have to enter it manually. We just have to set it up once, and QuickBooks will automatically take care of the rest. Now how do we set it up manually? we have to click on this option which says gear icon, and under list we have an option recurring transactions. As you click on recurring transactions, it gives you these options here. We can click on new and we can select out of these transactions what is this transaction that you want to add. So let's say I want to add an expense entry and I click on OK. When I click on OK, it brings this option in front of me. Let's say I mention EMI payment. It further gives me the type, and in this drop down we have three options: scheduled, reminder, or unscheduled. Scheduled means it's a schedule entry on a certain date. QuickBooks, irrespective of where exactly we are, it will enter that transaction on its own. Reminder means QuickBooks will show us a reminder a couple of days earlier to that date on the home page. Unscheduled means there is no schedule for this transaction. Whenever we want to enter it, we can just double click on the enter and we can add it. So what we recommend our customers to use is scheduled or reminder only. So let's say I select scheduled and I mention this should be entered not 0 days in advance, but on the same day itself. We can select the pay if you want to, otherwise you can leave this blank. We can select the bank account here. Now it asks for the interval, whether it's a monthly payment, it's a daily payment, or a weekly payment. I select monthly here. Then it says on which day, but it's 4th of every month, and then the start date should be, let's say if it's 4th of January 2017, that is today itself. And then it asks for end date, by which date should it be ended. So we can select after, let's say 10 occurrences this should happen, and then it says this is for what. I can just click on add new and I can add an account here. Let's say I select EMI payment here and I mention the amount as 1000 rupees. Now if I click on save template, on this date, that is the next date is 4th of February 2017, 1000 rupees will be deducted from my account on its own. This is how QuickBooks will be able to add it. Now, irrespective of the fact whether I log into QuickBooks or not, this entry will be added by QuickBooks without any delay. If I want to do any changes, I can just click on edit and I can change the date here as well. If you want to do that, that can be done. Now this is how QuickBooks will be able to add these entries in QuickBooks. That's how you can do the standing orders or the recurring transactions. These are all the transactions that you can enter. Perfect. Let's talk about some other add-ons that we have in QuickBooks. For example, we have a magnifying glass here. This will allow you to search for transactions. It has all the recent transactions listed here. If you go to advanced search, you can search for a specific transaction here. That is, if you want, let's say, bill payments only, and you can just click on search, you'll get all the bill payments that have been done. If you want only the bills, you can click on search, you'll get all the bills that have been entered. If you want only the checks, you can click on search, you'll get all the checks that have been entered. This is how you will be able to use the advanced search option in QuickBooks. Another option that we have is, if you go to the gear icon, you have an option of attachments. What exactly does attachment means? Attachment basically means if you're entering an invoice to a customer, let's say you've entered an invoice, underneath this message you have an option of attachments. Every invoice, along with every invoice, you can send a file of 25 MB to the customer. So let's say if you want to send your bank details, or you want to send a disclaimer message, or your company's terms and conditions, and they are not coming up on the invoice because it's a pretty huge page, you can just attach that terms and condition along with the invoice and send it across to the customer. That's the only reason why we have these attachment options in QuickBooks. Right. The last and one of the most important topic that we have for today is multi-currency that we're going to cover now. Now, what exactly does multi-currency means? Multi-currency basically means that you have you will be able to, you get the freedom to track transactions in foreign currencies. That is, you can purchase or you can add purchase invoices in foreign currency, and you can also add sales invoices in foreign currencies. How do we do that? Because right now, if you see all the balances, everything is coming up in rupees because that's our home currency. For that, you have to enable multi-currency. And to do so, we have to again click on gear icon. We have to go to company settings. And in company settings, on the left hand panel, you have to select advanced. As you select advanced, scroll it down, you have an option of currency here. And there it says multi-currency, which is off right now. As I click here, I can check the box. When I check this box, I get this warning. Once you turn on multi-currency, you cannot turn it off. You cannot change your home currency because it's by default INR. Extra field and column would be added. If you agree with this, you can just check the box. I understand I cannot undo multi-currency, and I just click on save. This is how you will be able to enable multi-currency. And yes, that's a fact that you once it's been switched on, you cannot switch it off at all. Now once it's been done, you can just click on done here. And let's go to customers. You'll see the impact immediately. If you see, this currency column has been added here. There is a currency column that's been added which has INR, INR, INR by default written. So what if I am adding a foreign customer now? How would I add it? I click on new customer and I mention it's a USD customer. But how do I define that he will pay me only in USD? But just the name, it will not work. Hence, you have to click on the option which says payment and billing. As you click on this, you will get the option here. This customer pays me with. Yeah, and it by default INR, you can change this to USD, United States dollar. As I click on save, and you'll see the balance on the top has started to move into dollars. This balance is now showing up in dollars. If you go to customers, you'll see the column here for currency. All the customers have INR as a currency, but this customer, USD customer, has a currency as USD. Moreover, the balance is showing up in dollars. So let's try to use this customer on some transaction and let's see how does it reacts. So if I click on plus sign, let's enter an invoice here. Let's say we enter this invoice to the USD customer. If I select USD customer, immediately you can see there is an option of 1 USD equal to 68.245. So that's the exchange rate that we have for today. QuickBooks automatically downloads this exchange rate, and we do not have to be worried about that if we have to manually download it. QuickBooks automatically takes care of that. So let's say if I'm entering this on 22nd of December, if you'll see the impact here as I change the date here to 22nd of December, the exchange rate will immediately change. Here we go. Okay, so I've just changed the date to a future date. Sorry, I have to change it to December. And you'll see the exchange rate has changed to 67.8550. Now let's say if I'm entering an invoice, there were some services that we gave to this customer and the amount was 100 USD. $100 is the overall amount. Based on exchange rate, if you see the breakup here in the bottom, it comes to 6,785 rupees and 50 paisa. That's the INR amount. But actual amount is $100. So we can click on save and close here. The invoice has been added. If you now go to customers, you can see what he owes us is 1,000 rupees. And now if we click on plus sign and we go to receive payment, let's say if the customer is paying us today, that is on 4th of January 2017. If I select this amount and I deposit this amount into my ICICI bank account, now today, because the amount was earlier, the exchange rate was different, 6785 was the amount that I'm supposed to receive. Today, when I'm receiving the payment, the exchange rate has changed. Hence, based on this exchange rate, customer is still paying me $100. The amount that is supposed to pay me is still not changed. It is still 100 rupees. $100, I'm sorry. But as per the INR value, I am receiving a little more. I'm receiving 6824.54. If I'll just do a save and close to this entry, and if you run the report on this USD customer, so let's say if we click on this amount here, we'll see the payment here. The payment is of 6824, but the invoice actual amount is 6785. So we have received about 100 rupees extra from the customer. Where exactly does that 100 rupees go? I'll show you a report here. If you go to reports, you just type for realized exchange gains and losses. If you click on this, you will see this payment that we've just received. 4th of January 2070, USD customer, currency was USD, exchange rate was this, realized gain and loss is of 39.04 INR. So this is the amount that was difference in between the exchange rates. And we have received about 40 rupees or 39 rupees extra from the customer. So what QuickBooks does is, whenever anything of this sort happens, QuickBooks has an expense account named as exchange gain and loss. If I'll show you that account here, if you see this exchange gain and loss account, this is that account. It's an other expense account, and if you run the report here, you will be able to see this entry that we just added of the payment. You see that payment here, but because it's an expense account and my expenses are not going up, but I have received an extra payment, so my income has gone up. Hence, this amount is showing in negative, which means my expenses have gone down. It's one and the same thing. Either your income goes up or your expenses goes down. You're still earning profit. And that is what's happening here. That is what exactly has happened here. My expenses have gone down with 39 rupees and 04 paisa. And that is how QuickBooks will work on these transactions. All what you have to do is just ensure that we take care of the exchange gain and loss or the exchange rate, and rest will be done by QuickBooks on its own. This is how we will be able to track these transactions in QuickBooks. Well, with this, we have come to the end of the agenda that we have set for today. We will be able to cover the taxes part tomorrow. Let me just show you what we have in store for you tomorrow. So tomorrow what we're going to cover is taxes. That includes the VAT, CST, service tax, Swachh Bharat, Krishi Kalyan Sex. And then we'll also cover the custom tax rate. That is the how to add new taxes, how to add a group rate, how to add a new tax agency apart from the 5 default agencies. The 5 default agencies are service tax, Swachh Bharat, VAT, CST and Krishi Kalyan. If you want to add another 6th agency, how can you add that is what we're going to cover tomorrow. Also, we will cover some reports and how you can customize every report so that it should show you the exact data that you're looking for. We will also talk about how to add different users and what are the rights that you can give to a user. And in the end, we will cover the purge the data. What exactly purge the data means? Purging the data means whatever transactions that we have added in past 3 days, we will wipe the entire data in one go, and we will show you how you can remove that in just seconds. And then in the end, we'll have a question and answer session. Well, this is what we have in store for you tomorrow. So we'll look forward to meeting you again tomorrow. However, right now, we would like to go on a question and answer. If you have any questions, you can use the chat window to ask the questions, and we would like to answer them right away. But before we do that, please help us in understanding that how would you like to rate the session that we did today. We really appreciate your feedback. Please do participate in this. I will request all the attendees to please participate in this survey that's been displayed on the screen right now, and we can accordingly this will actually work as a feedback for us. So please do participate, and also you can use the chat window to ask the questions. We will cover this once we're done with the survey. We'll close this survey in next 10 seconds. For those who have not participated, you can participate now and then we can close the survey. Right, we're closing the survey right now. Thank you so much for your participation. Perfect. We are now moving on to the question and answers. If you have any questions, please use the chat window for the same. Nasreen, there's a question that you've asked, difference between check and expense. So difference between check and expense is when you enter a check expense, it would have a check number written on the top. However, an expense entry is more of a cash expenses that you do. So you can use any of the options, but the only thing is If you're writing a check and you want to keep a track of the check number, then you should use the check option there. Nasreen, there's another question that you've asked, that how to do bank internal transfer entry. The bank internal transfer entry can be done only bank internal transfer entry can be done only if you have two bank accounts. So you just click on plus sign, and then you have the transfer option there. We did this yesterday. When you click on transfer, you can do a transfer from one bank account to another. So that is definitely possible. Select the bank account here and select the other bank account here, and you can accordingly deposit the amount. This is how you can do the internal transfer. I hope that answers your question. Also, what I would suggest you is that if in case you have any technical queries, you can get in touch with the support team there. To get in touch with support team, you can visit this website. Let me show you that. If you go to QuickBooks.in, this is our home page. You have to click on Learn and Support there, and you click on QuickBooks Support. As you click on QuickBooks Support, it will take you to the next page where you will be able to define your query. You can further define it, that whether it's the banking, or you can select a connection to bank account. And in the second step, you will get the option whether you can contact us, you can email us your query, or you can chat with the support representative as well. Also, you have an option of Ask the Community. In Community, you can just mention your question there. You can just type the question that you have, and all the users who are using QuickBooks across the globe, anyone who can answer this question, they will be able to assist you with the same. Also, on the home page of QuickBooks, you have our toll-free number 1-800-102-5599. You can contact us on this number as well. Nasreen Sheikh, you asked the question that payment received from customer A in bulk, but it's against the 5 invoices. Well, you can receive payment against 5 invoices without any issues in QuickBooks. Condition being, it's for the same customer. Yes, you can do that. When you go to receive payment, if you have multiple invoices pending for the same customer, you will be able to check all the invoices and receive the payment against them. Sumit Agrawal, so there's a question that you asked. As we know, the foreign currency debtors should be shown at the 31st of March foreign exchange rate. So how would QuickBooks will reinstate the value of debtors as on 31st of March? What we do is, there is a journal entry that we need to pass. We generally call it home currency adjustment, but we don't have that option available. What I would suggest you is you can contact the support team for the same. They will guide you how it can be done. It's definitely possible, but I would suggest you to contact support team and they can assist you with the same. Ankush Mittal, there's a question that you asked. Let us say that on a day several similar expenses took place. Will match option work still? It will work, but then if in your bank account, if on a given day you have done 10 transactions and for the same amount, and in your bank statement you received all the 10 transactions, then it will give you the option that all the 10 can be matched. But if you have done in actually you have done about 15 transactions and bank statement showing 10, then you have to allocate that which transaction to be matched and which not. Hemant Kumar Yadgir, so there's a question that you asked that I am a seller at marketplace whereas commissions are deducted upfront from the sales amount and balance will be credited to seller account. In such scenario, I have to deduct TDS first and then claim it from the seller. In that scenario, so if you're paying the TDS first and then you're claiming it from the supplier, that means you're getting a refund for the TDS. So you will be able to do a journal entry where you can effect TDS payable account. I would suggest you can contact support team for the same. They will be able to guide you which journal entry that you need to enter and you can accordingly do that, sir. That's definitely possible. Sujata Michael, there's a question that you've asked in case of online banking transactions in bulk payment done. I believe you're talking about where you have done bulk payment to multiple invoices and you want to know if how can that be tracked. Well, we did an option of find match. When you click on find match, it will open up all the outstanding invoices, not just for one supplier, but for multiple customers and suppliers. You can allocate that payment against different invoices. So that can be done. Nasreen Sheikh, there's a question that you asked about 7 lakh payment done to 10 vendors and bank showing 7 lakhs. So how to transfer that amount to different vendors? If your bank is connected and you're using online banking, then you will get the option of find match. When you click on find match, you will be able to see all the open bills there and you have to just accordingly select all the bills. This is how you will be able to do this. Hope that answers your question. Predaman Devabos, so there's a question that you asked, the limit of bank accounts adding in QBO. So there is no limit. If your bank is listed there, you can add as many accounts as much you can. Soumya Kundu, there is a question that you've asked about. We have selected start of financial year and start of accounting year from April. However, we'll be using QuickBooks from 7th of January. Will that create any problems? Absolutely no. It will not create any problems at all. In fact, so the only reason why we define these dates or these months, the financial year, is for the reporting purpose. So that when you run the profit and loss report or you run the balance sheet report, it will show you the balance sheet starting from April itself. or the profit and loss from April itself. Now that you will start entering transactions from January, when you run the profit and loss report, it will run the report still from April till March, but the balances will show only from March or from the January onwards when you will start entering the transactions. So it's not going to make any difference at all. Mohit sir, there is Mohit Jindal sir. There is a question that you asked, sir, how we will ensure that our login information of bank ID and passwords is safe. So as I mentioned earlier, Verisign is the company who safeguards our online banking details with all the SDFC or all the bank accounts that we have in India. Same company safeguards our QuickBooks accounts. So it's pretty much safe. The account details, there are thousands of users who are using online banking every single day in QuickBooks, and it's pretty much safe. There is no way that it will be get copied over at all. Sumit sir, there's a question that you've asked that if you have closed the bank account, how would I remove that account from QuickBooks? So let me show this to you. If you see the screen right now, in chart of accounts, we have added one account using the where we have uploaded the CSV file. That is the SDFC bank account. To remove the account, we have an option here. If you just click on this, you have a delete option here. But if you want to disconnect the account from online banking, you have to click on edit option. It will open up this window in front of you, and you have a checkbox here which says disconnect this account on save. If you see this right now, there are two arrows that are going on opposite direction. These two arrows actually define that this account is connected with online banking. If I edit this and I check the box which says disconnect this account on save, as I click on save and close, I'm back on the home screen and those two arrows are gone. Money with Money SDFC. Now this is disconnected from the banking. If you go to banking, you will not see this account at all. It doesn't show me any account that is connected. This is how you can remove the accounts. I hope this answers your question, sir. All right, well, we are almost at the end of the session, the today's session. We really appreciate your patience. We really thank you for taking our time out and attending this session. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time, 10 o'clock. And we have already covered that tomorrow is a very important day where we'll cover the taxes, which is one of the most important topics that we have. So we'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day ahead. Bye-bye. And please do look out for an email that will be sent to you by the end of the day today, which would have the recording link of today's session, and it will also have the question and answer that were been asked during the session today. Thank you so much.